2020. I have my little gavel. Before I call the meeting to order, I'm going to say some of the usual things I've been saying over the past 8 weeks. We're in a peacetime emergency in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the governor's order has allowed us to suspend our in-person Metropolitan Council meetings. And under the Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, we will have an opportunity to have a virtual meeting by either screen or by telephone. So regrettably, we will not be able to accommodate direct public comment as we do when we're in council chambers. However, in lieu of that, we're asking members of the public who might be listening in, they can always email us at public.info@metc.state.mn.us. That's public.info@metc.state.mn.us, and we will respond to your comments in a timely manner. So as usual, if you would like to speak, for those council members who have access to the little wave feature, or what seems to work better is just to physically wave if we can see you, or Liz will keep an eye out. Also, feel free to use the chat box and we'll recognize you for any discussion. I also remind you to, when you're making comments, to state your name for those that might be dialing in and not actually seeing us. Because of the virtual nature of the meeting, we're going to actually use the roll call for each business item. And when we do that, Liz is going to call the roll in alphabetical order, including me as Z at the end. I call this meeting to order, and as a way to start, Liz, for establishing a quorum, will you call the roll for attendance?
Yes. Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson. Atlas Ingebretson.
Here.
Barber. Chambliss.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Ferguson. Ferguson. Hudson.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lilligren.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Musse.
Here.
Sterner.
Here.
Bento.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Zurin.
Present.
Chair Zelli.
I'm here.
All right.
And now the first order of business is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda. This is Sterner.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Cummings second.
Thank you, Molly. Any discussion? Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson. Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings. Ferguson. Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye. Here.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musse.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Bento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
And Chair Zelli.
Aye. All right, that motion carried. Now, the next order of business is approval of the minutes from April 22nd, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Lindstrom, motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Vento seconds.
Thank you. Is there any amendments, discussions, questions, discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. Liz, call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson. Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson, Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset, Musset, Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye. So the minutes are approved. So now the next item is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, Johnson moves.
Second by
Thank
Lee.
you. Thank you, Lee. And is there any discussion? I will say on one item, the HRA voucher offer, I had a very interesting half hour today when I heard from Beacon, who is advocating for this. I know it's on the consent agenda because it had unanimous approval at the Community Development Committee, but I full support and was really impressed with this initiative, and I think it's going to make a difference. So, any other discussion? No? Then Liz, call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson. She says I in the messaging. Her headphones aren't working. Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson, Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye. All right, that motion carried. And we're now into the reports of the standing committees. And first up, Community Development, Council Member Lilligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Community Development is bringing two items forward for consideration today. The first is business item 2020-122. It's the 2040 Comprehensive Plan for St. Mary's Point. St. Mary's Point is in eastern Washington County, and it's designated rural residential by Thrive MSP 2040. The city currently has about 160 households and is not expected to grow in population or households during the 2020 to 2040 timeframe. The plan maintains the established development pattern, and the city does not have regional wastewater service, nor is it planned to have that service in the planning horizon. Council staff find that the 2040 plan conforms to regional systems plans, is consistent with the council policies with proposed changes to housing, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. First, authorize the City of St. Mary's Point to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect. And second, to be fully consistent with council housing policy, strongly encourage the city to address the following prior to final plan adoption. A, include consideration of 2 additional widely accepted tools, community land trusts and inspections programs, and B, clearly and directly link identified housing needs to the available tools.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second, Gonzalez.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson.
She's trying.
Yeah. Let's see. Barber. Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson says aye. Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye. The motion carried. Next item, Councilmember Lilligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's business item 2020-133. It's the Sunfish Lake 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Sunfish Lake in northern Dakota County is designated rural residential by Thrive MSP 2040. The city has about 190 households. Between 2020 and 2040, households are expected to grow while the population declines as the city's population continues to age. The city does not have regional wastewater service, nor is it planned to have that service in the planning horizon. Council staff find that the 2040 plan confirms to regional systems plans, is consistent with cultural policies with proposed changes to housing, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. First, authorize the City of Sunfish Lake to place the 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, and also to advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for surface water management.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second by Lee.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson. Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye.
And Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson, text aye.
Lovely. Thank you. That motion carried. And we have no reports from the Environment Committee. So next up is actually the Management Committee, and just in time, Councilmember Ferguson has arrived, was willing to defer this, but your timing is perfect. Except you have to unmute.
Sure. So the management committee has one business item. It is business item 2020-121, award for our general obligation debt within established financial parameters. Typically, once a year, we issue debt for divisions based on the estimated 18 to 12-month cash flow needs in the capital budget. This year's bond issues are $8.8 million for general obligation bonds for parks and $80 million for general obligation wastewater revenue bonds. The debt service for the park bonds is paid with property tax levies, and the debt service for the wastewater revenue bonds is paid from the revenue of the wastewater system. We are selling the bonds on May 20th with the proceeds in hand by mid-June. Staff fully expects the sale of these bonds to fall within the parameters set, with the interest rates probably coming in up to 1 or 1.5% under the parameters. This item has been reviewed and approved by the management committee. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the cash parameters resolution 2020-5 and 2020-6, authorizing the issuance, sale, and award of general obligation debt, the incurrence of the related issuance expenses, and the execution of necessary documents.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Johnson seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. I'll just make one.
Atlas Ingebretson?
Oh, no, wait, hold on. Councilmember Ferguson, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one more comment. I think it is important, just with all that's going on. Mary Bogey and her team have done a phenomenal job meeting with rating agencies and others to keep our cost of borrowing down. And, obviously there's been a lot of upheaval in the market. And so we are still viewed as a very good credit. And our team has done a phenomenal job working with those rating agencies to keep the credit rating where it needs to be to allow us to be able to borrow at an affordable cost.
Yeah, I really second that. Remarkable during this time that we've been able to maintain some reserves and some financial integrity to keep that credit rating high. Testimony to Met Council and also state of Minnesota.
Yes.
Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Mary Bogey, and just to add on to that a little bit, we did our rating agency calls last week with the rating agencies, and they were very interested in what our plans for the future are. And so we discussed both our pitfalls as well as our resiliency. We don't have our ratings back yet, but one of the things that I ask each time when we're talking to the rating agencies is, do they see any red flags for us beyond obviously the pandemic impacts? And in both cases, Standard & Poor's and Moody's, they thought that we did a really nice job with our presentations. And so I'm hopeful that we will hear this week that we have retained our AAA rating.
Well, thank you, Mary. Nice job, and you and your staff. And we'll all be interested in hearing next week. All right, Liz, call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson? Barber?
Aye.
Chambliss?
Aye.
Cummings?
Aye.
Ferguson?
Aye.
Edson?
Aye.
Gonzalez? Gonzalez?
Aye.
Thank you. Johnson?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Lilligren?
Aye.
Lindstrom?
Aye.
Musse?
Aye.
Sterner?
Aye.
Bento?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Zurin?
Aye.
Chair Zelli?
Aye. All right, the motion carried. Next up, the report from the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Barber is there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Transportation Committee will be bringing forward 2 items tonight. The first item is business item 2020-128, which is requesting an amendment to 2 appraisal contracts for the Southwest LRT project. The Southwest LRT project will need to acquire new temporary construction easements through the end of 2023 for up to 128 parcels. The easements currently expire at the end of 2020 or 2021. This is required due to earlier project delays and to allow sufficient time to complete the construction work and complete any punch list items. As a result, the initial appraisals need to be updated. 2 of the 3 contractors that are assigned to the majority of these parcels are nearly out of funds, so we are requesting amendments to those contracts. The 3rd contractor has fewer parcels and has nearly $200,000 remaining in their contract. Therefore, the 3rd contract is not being amended. As noted in the committee report, after the conclusion of the Transportation Committee, a clerical error was discovered in the proposed action presented to the committee for this business item. The text in the proposed action relating to Integra Realty Resource 17P253A should have stated a not to exceed amount of $575,000 as shown in the business item table rather than $570,000. For the purposes of getting a motion before the council, I will move the proposed action approved by the committee. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute amendments to 2 of the 3 master contracts for condemnation appraisal services for the Southwest LRT project as follows. Integra Realty Resources 17P253A to add $75,000 for a new total not to exceed $570,000, and Patchen Messer Dodd and Brum contract 17P253B to add $325,000 for a new total not to exceed $825,000. Is there amendment to the motion to make the correction?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambliss, I move that the motion be amended as follows. Not to exceed the amount for contract number 17P253A be changed from $570,000 to $575,000.
Is there a second to the amendment to the motion?
Cummings, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I think we're voting on the amendment to the motion. All righty, Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson. Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
Aye. So the amendment to the motion is carried. I believe now the motion is on the floor, unless somebody stops me. I think that's where we are. Is there a second to the motion as amended?
Second by Lee.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Please.
So the original motion was just amending that the language, there was only one motion so far, correct?
Correct.
So that would have, I believe, under Robert's rules been a main motion, but we can vote on it again in case we need to. Doesn't.
Do we need? All right. Here's a point of order then. Maybe the general counsel or somebody can. Do we need to have another vote on the full motion, or did we vote on it as amended?
Mr. Chair, this is General Counsel. I think we've voted to amend the motion, I think you still need a vote on the motion.
Well, let's do that. But
I think if we
Councilmember.
vote on the motion as amended, then we will have covered all the bases that what we have approved is in fact the motion as amended.
Perfect. All righty. Then any discussion? All righty. Liz, call the roll. This is for the motion as amended.
Atlas Ingebretson. Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musse.
Aye.
Journer.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin.
Aye.
Chairzelli.
Aye. The motion as amended carried. Thank you. Next up, joint report of environment and community development committees.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have one more item.
I'm so sorry. I got so excited that we did that.
No worries. Mr. Chair,
Councilmember Barber, your second item.
Thank you. Business item number 2020-143 regarding the approval of a contract extension for the sole source acquisition of transit master maintenance support contract. This current contract is due to expire on June 30th, 2020, and with the onset of COVID-19, we propose extending the contract until December 31st, 2020 to allow enough time to work through the upcoming contract negotiations. Due to the cancellation of the May 11th Transportation Committee meeting, this item is proceeding directly to the full council. The council is dependent upon a stable, secure transit services system in order to conduct our daily business. The award and execution of the sole source amendment exceeding 10% of the original contract value does require council approval. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to award, negotiate, and execute a sole source amendment 1 to 15P154 with Trapeze Software Group Incorporated to extend the contract term to December 31st, 2020, and add $750,000 or $51,046 to bring the total contract to $7,105,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Or second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson. Barber.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ferguson.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musse.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zurin. Zurin.
Aye.
And Chairzelli.
Aye. Motion carried. Now we're ready
Chair?
for the, yes.
This is Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson. I vote aye, and you can hear me?
We totally can hear you. Very nice to hear.
Yay!
Very nice to hear your voice. Always good to see your various body language and voting, but your voice is appreciated. Now we're ready for the joint report of Environment and Community Development Committees. Councilmember Lilligren.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The following two business items are comprehensive plans for communities connected to the regional wastewater system, and all were heard in Community Development Committee. These items were all on the consent agenda for the Environment Committee, but due to the pandemic, that meeting was canceled. With your permission, the Chair's permission, these items were forwarded here to the Council. The proposed actions for these items will include staff recommended actions for the Environment Committee. For all the communities, Council staff found that the 2040 plans conform to regional systems plans, are consistent with Council policies and are compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. So the first is business item 2020-118. It's the 2040 comprehensive plan for Cologne. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. From the Community Development Committee, authorize the City of Cologne to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, and also advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for land use, surface water management, and water supply. And the recommendation from the Environment Committee is approve the City of Cologne's comprehensive sewer plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second by Barber.
Lovely. Any discussion? Hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye. That motion carried. Councilmember Lilligren, one more.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's business item 2020-19 to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the City of New Germany and approve their comprehensive sewer plan. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. Recommendations from the Community Development Committee to authorize the City of New Germany to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, and to advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for surface water management and water supply. And the recommendation from the Environment Committee is to approve the City of New Germany's comprehensive sewer plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second by Barber.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Liz, please call the roll.
Atlas Ingebretson,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zurin,
Aye.
and Chair Zelli.
Aye. That motion carried. Thank you all for your reports. We're ready for other business, and the first is an information item. an update on the Southwest Light Rail project. It's great to see Jim Alexander and Sam O'Connell here on our screen, and we're looking forward to an update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Jim Alexander, Project Director. Going to give you an update on the Southwest LRT project. Greg's going to navigate the slides for us here. I think you go to slide number 2 there for me, Greg. Yeah, we were last before you, I think, around January 8th to give you an update. We'll try to give you a quarterly update as we move along. And just so you're aware of the kind of the agenda here, we're going to give you a project update. I'll go through the civil construction, and Tracy Jackson with Office of Equal Opportunity will be doing the DBE workforce update, and Sam O'Connell from our office will do the outreach and communications update. So if you could advance the slide there, Greg. So project update, wanted to talk first about the full funding grant agreement. Probably on some folks' minds, maybe all, that we have our FFGA application in with the FTA, and we understand that it is complete in their mind, and it's just really going through final review stage with the folks out in Washington, D.C., and we hope to hear fairly soon on the outcome of that, and that'll get us going for the rest of the project. We're currently working under letters of no prejudice that have been awarded by the FTA. So let's move on to slide 4. This is an image that was taken about a week ago out in Sacramento, and shows the vehicles in production. We're actually getting a couple of these shipped here fairly soon. This 301 on slide 5 is coming with 302 here. We'll be having those in the Twin Cities here in probably toward the end of the month here. They'll go through a lot of testing as we get those underway locally here. Next slide there, Greg. So just a kind of reminder, I think I've shared this with you in the past, but change between the Type 2 that was the vehicles that are run on the green line today versus the Type 3, which we're purchasing 27. Those images you saw in the previous slides. The big difference here is that the aisleway is much more conducive to wheelchair traffic through the entire length of the car. And so we think that's a better fit for our cars moving forward. On to slide 7. So with our updates, we give you a real estate acquisition status. Not a whole lot of changes here. All told, 191 parcels. We have 149 private parcels and 62 parcel acquisitions completed, and 87 with going through the process of settlement or commissioners' hearings. And we are looking to extend some of the temporary easements that we have on the project, just to make sure we have the land secured for the construction. Next slide, please. Relocation status, total 177 displacees, and 157 of those have been closed out, and we still have a few that still need to be finalized there. Maybe I'll pause there real quick if there are any questions on the vehicles or our real estate.
I have a question, Jim. It's Molly Cummings. Can you remind us, do the Type 2 and Type 3 vehicles hold the same number of passengers?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Cummings, they do hold the same number of passengers, but the seating, kind of looking at my notes here, I think it was reduced from 66 to, hold on a second here. We went down from 66 to 60 seats that we have on the Type 3s now. And that change was needed to accommodate a better accessibility.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. We'll move on to the civil update here.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I do have one question, Alexa, and that is regarding the seats. I couldn't tell from the photo, are those seats cloth? And I know we're planning to switch to the plastic seats.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Council Member, we are going to be having plastic seats on this on these vehicles, so they'll be fully equipped with plastic seats.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, let's go on to the civil update here. So just going through a number of slides, starting out west, Eden Prairie. This is where formerly Southwest Transit's office was located. Has now been kind of taken down for the station. You see some piling activities here, and work is still going well. We're still coordinating well with Len Semich and Southwest Transit. They continue to operate their buses out of this facility. There's a temporary waiting facility that we built that's just off to the left off the picture here. Next slide, please. This is an image over 494 where we're building a new LRT bridge adjacent to Flying Cloud going over 494. There you can see some cranes in the work. If you haven't been out west, just follow the cranes. You'll see a lot of work going on in the project. There's just kind of a crazy amount of cranes out there right now. On to slide 12. So we're progressing further to the east. This is over Valley View. This is kind of exciting. Last couple of weeks, the contractor's advancing the bridge structure here that goes over the Valley View Flying Cloud interchange that gets onto 212. You can kind of see in the background there. Slide number 13. I think we last showed this in January. It didn't have much structure here, just had foundation. This is the Golden Triangle station that is really getting underway, and pretty excited about that. We have a couple of stations that are starting to take some shape here. Slide 14, please. This is the east segment of the 62 tunnel. We shifted traffic to the south to accommodate this construction. Once this tunnel is done, this piece is done, then the traffic, those lanes off to the left will be shifting off to the right over this segment, and the contractor will build the western segment of the tunnel. Slide 15, please. So we're going to move across into Minnetonka here. This is Oka Station. A lot of earthwork and utility work to be done before we get to the foundation, but that's getting well underway here. Slide 16, please. This is just the starting of one of our longer bridges that extends over the Bass Lake Spur freight line and extends over to the to Felthel-Smetana area and Minnetonka Hawkins area. This is the pile driver you see in the picture here. Slide 17. It's the other station that's really taking shape, downtown Hawkins Station. You see they're starting to put the concrete down for the slab of the station platform there. Slide 18. This is the LRT bridge that will extend over Excelsior Boulevard. It also extends over the freight tracks. So this is quite a big operation here for the contractor. Slide 19. This is a regional trail construction at Blake Road. We'll have essentially the trail will be going under Blake eventually. We currently have the southbound lane closed and the northbound lane only to get folks north and south through this area. Slide 20, please. And this is another regional trail at Wooddale and St. Louis Park that the contractor progressing to the east to complete that tunnel under the roadway. We currently have that roadway closed for about 30 days over this month of May, and work is going pretty well there. Slide 21. This is at Highway 100 where we're building a freight bridge abutment. You can kind of see on the other side in the middle there, there's in the median of 100, we have the pier built already, and there's already work underway on the other side for the other abutment for this freight bridge. Eventually, you'll see in the background there, maybe you could back up just a minute there to 21. You can see that girder back in the background. That'll be actually shifted over to this bridge that we're building right now, and that place will be occupied by the new LRT once we get that built. So, slide 22, please. All right, this was another regional trail bridge that we're building over Beltline in St. Louis Park. Slide 23. This is the freight bridge over Cedar Lake Channel in Minneapolis, Kenilworth Corridor. The bridge is getting pretty close to being done. We're getting prepared to starting to shift. We're going to be shifting the freight track over onto this bridge And so there'll be a kind of a major shift for the permanent location of that freight track eventually here in the next couple of months. And slide 24, please. This is a retaining wall, a lot of work going on in the Glenwood area. This is the BNSF track near Target Field. And the contractor is underway building a lot of retaining walls to make room for this track shift. The freight track will end up moving about 25 feet toward that wall. So we need to get that all secured so that it can accommodate the track there. And then slide 25, I think our last construction slide, this is up in the Royalston area where we're building bridge structure. We'll eventually link ourselves up past Carrying Hands, you can see in the background to link up into the green/blue line in your target field. So maybe I'll pause there before I hand it over to Tracy if there are any questions on our progress so far.
Any questions?
All right, well, I'll hand it over to Tracy Jackson then.
Good afternoon. Hi, Council Chair and members. I'm Tracy Jackson from the Office of Equal Opportunity. I'm the Senior Manager there. And today I'm going to be presenting on the DBE and workforce participation for the civil contract. Okay, so as the Council continues the equity commitments to the region, you'll see the, just a reminder for DBE and workforce. So DBE is measured by the dollars paid. And for the civil contract, that goal is 16%. And as of February, their achievement is 20.8%. And for workforce participation, that is also measured by hours. And they're at 32% people of color and 20% for the goals. Their achievement as of February is 17.92, and for women is 7.57. Next slide. Okay, so to the DBE payments that are been made, so you'll see the trend, it is really increasing. LMJV is exceeding and achieving the 16% goal, and they're right now at 20.80. And what I would like to note about this is as the project is ramped up, the DBE is right now at a really high point. And it's not unusual that with the upcoming construction activities that this participation will level out closer to the 16% as projected. So we typically see participation adjusting throughout the project, and we recognize that LMJV, their efforts, and we're confident that they will be meeting that 16% goal by the end of the project. Next slide. Okay, so this slide will look familiar. At our January update, we showed the breakdowns of the DBEs that our LMJV is committed to on the project. So they're broken down by ethnicity and gender. And then we will again continue sharing these slides with you. Next slide. This one also should look familiar. The DBE participation by state. This chart represents the DBEs that are working on the civil contract again. The DBE firms that they're all certified within the state of Minnesota. Over 85% are based within Minnesota, and close to 15% firms are based outside of Minnesota. Slide. And then this is the listing of the committed DBEs on the project. So we have 51 DBE firms that LMJV has committed to utilizing on this contract. To date, 36 of them have already performed work, and over $32.5 million has been paid to these DBEs to date. So before I transition into workforce, is there any questions on DBE? Hearing none, I'm going to transition now into workforce. So I just want to, as you remember, one of our commitments from the council is the Building Strong Communities construction workforce development model that Aaron Koski presented to the council in April. The council and the Minnesota Department of Human Rights are committed to supporting contractors and meeting their workforce goals. And of course, the Human Rights is the lead agency that monitors the workforce compliance. However, of course, it's a collaborative effort to ensure workforce compliance is fulfilled. So the next set of slides are the charts that will reflect the February participation. Greg, if you could go back to that first slide. Thank you. These will include winter conditions and represents just under 20% construction activities so far. So as you look at, these are February numbers. For women, again, the goal is 20%. Their achievement right now is 7.5%. And then for people of color, again, that goal 32%. And their cumulative to date is at 17.92%. Next slide. Okay, so again, this is counted by the hours worked. And so this is the breakdown by ethnicity and gender. Next slide. Okay, so this shows the women to date. And so you'll see for, we have through April 19 through February of 2020, the line is right around starting from 8 to that 7.5% where we are today. We do anticipate these numbers to increase as we're entering to a more robust construction activities with the warmer weather. And then next slide. And again, this is that trend slide for people of color. And as it is ramping up, we're getting up to the 17.92%, and of course, looking to increase these numbers. And then just a reminder, we're at a year mark now where we started our first DBE Workforce Advisory Committee kickoff last May of 2019. So we have, this committee continues to work, meet monthly. We're now going virtually. This committee advises the Met Council on issues related to DBE and workforce participation during construction. Some of the agenda topics, of course, for 2020 is, what are the impacts that COVID-19 and the challenges there, regional construction forecast. We're really looking into the union workforce overview, building strong communities, which you heard last month, and retention of workforce as we move forward. And then we'll be getting up to speed with the new systems contract coming on board. So that completes my presentation, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Tracy. I guess I would ask, do you expect us to get close to some of those workforce goals, or what does our contractor say?
Yeah, so we just actually met with our contractor recently. We are expecting those increases. I know with the, they're going to be hiring, as we just heard, positions, laborers and carpenters and pile drivers. So we do see that there will be increased participation in those trades.
Any questions for Tracy?
Chair, I'm not sure if you can see me. This is Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy and Jim. I really appreciate the data that's provided, and in particular, as we're looking to reverse the horrible impacts that disparities have on our community and do our part as the Metropolitan Council in the way that we invest our dollars. I just have a couple of questions. Kind of starting from slide 27 and going through 33. One of the things that's just been a regular theme is the underrepresentation of African Americans in our work. And so in order to really be able to track how we're doing in that context, it's important to have that disaggregated level of data that we see on slide 29, when we're also looking at the amount of workforce participation and hours worked. And so on slide 33, you had mentioned it was by ethnicity, but it's really by non-disaggregated race categories. And so I just one ask would be, could we in the future continue to get disaggregated data at that level across the areas we're looking at that we see on slide 29? And then can we also have information provided to us about how we're going to move the needle on our single largest ethnic minority group, which is African Americans, are the largest of all the groups and consistently at the bottom and are hyper underrepresented. I think it's really important right now, given the impacts that the COVID crisis is having on this population in particular. And when we look at past economic downturns, this population is also the first laid off, the last hired back, and the one that loses the most wealth during times of economic crisis. So it seems to me we've been talking about racial equity, but this is really a glaring issue when we look at the data on 29, and then we don't have data that really tells us a good story either when we look on slide 33 about how we are affecting racial equity in the investments and the projects we're carrying out. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yeah.
please.
Yes, please.
This is Councilmember Zarin. And reflecting on these numbers, what these, I'm a tradesman, so I think I got a different sort of perspective on these numbers. When I look at these numbers, what they mean to me is that women and people of color are not making it into leadership roles within these companies. They're not making it into the core group of people that are counted on throughout the year, just like Linnea referred to earlier. So what can we do, Ms. Jackson, to encourage our contractors, the subs, the MCubs, to be intentional about bringing women and people of color into a foreman role or a leadership role within their companies? Thank you.
Okay, Chair and Council Member, and I also want to get back to Atlas Ingebrigtsen as well. I'll focus on how we can move forward with to try to encourage the recruitment into higher level positions. I heard Councilman Zarin asking. I know as the DBE Workforce Advisory, we have some of those conversations, and I know we're meeting with LMJV on a monthly basis along with human rights. And so we are having those conversations on what areas and where they can increase. And then I know we need to start having more conversations about the higher level positions and finding women and people of color and getting them into the training programs for that.
Did you want to comment on the some of the disaggregated analysis that Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen asked about? Is that something that is possible for us to kind of drill down to?
Sure. So the current slide that we're on, I think that breakdown we've shared before, and I think that's sufficient. I think, Greg, if you could move to the slide in the workforce section in where you were asking it, and you're right, that is broken down. Keep going. This slide here, I think you were referring to in regards to the breakdown here. This is information that comes directly from the Department of Human Rights. And so I think if you were asking for this to be broken down into the different ethnicities for that, we would have to ask them for that. I'm not clear. So we will definitely look into that and see if that information can be shared at a future update.
Sheriff, good. This is Councilor
Yes.
Atlas Ingebrigtsen. Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to see that data, and then I'd also like to get a, and I don't expect one right now, around the pervasive underrepresentation of the African American population, particularly. It's a glaring standout in comparison to other communities, and look at in that aspect of how when we have crises in our country, see it time and time again that this is the population that is disproportionately hurt, and have the opportunity right now to be a part of doing something different if we're explicit and intentional. So would love to hear if there's a way that we can be explicit and intentional with our contractors around and mitigating that.
Chair, council member, thank you for that. I think this is information that I'd like to take back to our committee and to our contractor and work with human rights on, and then share with you some more information as an update. This is a council-wide, even, we're aware that, there are certain ethnicities that have a disparate impact, and we want to continue working on that. And then, so we're talking about the DBE small business programs, as well as the workforce participation. So I think that's just more information we could gather and share with you at a later date. Thank you for that.
That would be great. Thank you, Tracy. Any other follow-up questions at this point? All right, Sam?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, council members. I have a few slides to share with you on our communications and outreach, so I will go ahead and, Greg, if you could advance us to slide 38. Just wanted to share a little bit of information to you, as you get a lot of questions, we understand, from community members and businesses about how do we get information about Southwest LRT. And this slide represents kind of that layering of information that we do put together and share with our project stakeholders. So I'll just sort of walk through this a little bit, and I'll start at the bottom of the slide, which is really kind of the core of our efforts and really represents about 70% of what our team does. And it's really focused on one-on-one communications through emails, phone calls, or hotline responses, and different site visits or property owner visits. And that is something that we're doing daily. Speaking of our hotline turns 1 this week. So we have been operational for that for 1 year. We've received approximately 650 calls about the project. So it's been a good tool for us. We thought it would actually be used a little bit more. So it definitely provides us an opportunity to connect with residents and businesses in the corridor. Just sort of working to that next level out. I think most folks are very aware of our Friday construction update. It goes out to about 16,000 recipients, just a little bit over. And we have an open rate that we're pretty proud of, and it's 48%. And we're seeing that tick up just ever so slightly, a little bit more with the warmer weather, and as we do more activities in the corridor. So the next piece that follows that information layering is a piece that we're working on right now, and it's basically construction mapping. So what we've heard from our stakeholders, like, I really appreciate the Friday look ahead, but I would like to see what this looks like in a map. So if I'm a resident of St. Louis Park or Hawkins or Minneapolis or Minnetonka or Edinburgh, just want to see how this is playing out in my community. So it's something that we're developing and hope to get out at the end of May or early June, but it really provides folks a little bit more of an 3 to 6 week look ahead. And then it really describes what people will hear, what they will feel, what they will see in the corridor, what equipment will be out there, what to anticipate for crews. So that's something that we will be promoting here towards the end of the month, late June. And finally, we do have construction schedules that are updated quarterly. And Greg, if we could go to the next slide, I'll show folks what that looks like. These are posted on our website, and it's a quick overview of what to anticipate. So the example that you have here is Eden Prairie, and it's actually a 2-page document, but what you're seeing is the first page here. That's really detailing some of the bridge work that we have in Eden Prairie. If we were to look at the second page, you'd get a good example of activities around our stations in Eden Prairie. So Southwest, the Town Center Station, Golden Triangle, and City West stations, and see the work that it takes to get those stations up and going. So this is updated quarterly, and again, it's been received from our stakeholders as a good tool to just give them a high-level overview. Moving to slide 40, just wanted to talk a little bit of a new tool that we introduced in April, which is our Google mapping tool about trail detours. So if you go to southwestlrt.org, you can take a look at this map, and if you're on your smartphone, you can see where you are in relationship to this map. So as you are out and about and enjoying the trails and moving around, you can see where the detours are and where to go with this information. And it's very important for us that we release this in April, as we know more folks were getting out, but also in support of Bike Month here in May. And we've been reaching out to the different bike facilities and shops along the corridor, asking them to help us promote the tool, and I'll link to it as well. As an update from our January meeting with you, slide 41 highlights our construction information work groups. We have a CIW for each of our 5 communities, and the chair joined us for our kickoff meeting back in February. Since then, the CIWs have determined how often they would like to meet and the topics that they would like to discuss. So we provide information about construction activities, and also receive feedback on what that's like being a member of a community or a business, and really hearing from them, and also discussing just other topics that they would like to have. So the groups have met twice, and they will be meeting again at the end of the month, and you can see the schedule back on slide 41 when they typically meet. Slide 42 is just, sorry about that, Greg, moving to slide 42, just highlights some of the feedback we received from the collective groups. So we did change our construction update format for our Friday updates about a month ago, and folks really have provided good feedback on that and like the new format, easier to find information, and they know to go to the website if they're looking for more details. Again, in response, just creating some more maps that makes it easier to understand construction information within their community. And those maps will be backed up with supporting information about details about what to expect with construction methods, and what are they going to see and what are they going to feel as we do our construction activities. Also started to discuss some specific construction observations like dust, and how do we handle that, and what we can do better to handle items like dust. I think the last 2 bullets are kind of fun, because even in COVID-19, folks are really thinking about that next generation, and would like for us to create content for kids, specifically since we're going to be getting 27 new LRVs, and maybe we can have a naming contest for those LRVs and really engage our youth and younger folks. And last but not least, have fun and celebrate our milestones. And so that was a great reminder that even during these trying times, it's really important that we celebrate our milestones. So that concludes the slides that I present, as well as the Southwest LRT presentation as a whole. Chair, will bring this back to you, and staff would be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions about any topic here on Southwest Light Rail? Because of the presentation, yeah, go ahead.
This is Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson. I don't have a question, but just want to share appreciations for the work that staff are doing. It's still remaining a busy project for us, of course, with community engagement. There's been some unique items. I think each season brings the different things, but also the environment and how it reacts and things that are happening. And I think the staff, we've had a really warm, unseasonably warm spring and dry spring, and we've had some things happening on a number of the different lakes near and away from the project that people are questioning, and staff's done a really good job at partnering with the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board at addressing those concerns and being, as always, very responsive. But I just want to acknowledge how flexible they are and responsive and engaged at addressing concerns as they come up and shifting practices as detailed in the last couple of slides here. So just, again, kudos for staff doing great work on this project.
Great. Now the presentation is down. I can see everybody. Any other questions, comments on Southwest Light Rail project? I had to say myself, and I will second what Linnea just said. This is a great staff that stays flexible and resilient, like good transportation people. And I have a daily inspection of the project because I walk outside my door and walk a block away, and I have to say there is progress on every step, and also those communication groups that Sam, you are really helping lead. Is I hear from a number of different neighborhoods and cities that they really do appreciate that now the project is underway, that we're being as sensitive as we can for a very disruptive project, because it just is, and there's no way to sugarcoat that. But I think people knowing what's going on is kind of half the battle.
Thank you.
Great. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you, Jim, Tracy, Sam, and we'll move on to our final information item, where we heard a lot about how both by division we're handling business. It's not business as usual, the new usual, and it looks like we might have it for quite some time. And I think not to have it as quite detailed or exhaustive, but I really asked Mary to give us kind of an update so you all can hear and ask questions about how we're managing operations. I have to say, just as a outset, having witnessed it, it is remarkable what we're doing to kind of keep the trains running, and quite literally, and the water flowing, and our planning continues. I haven't seen much stop, and as you notice, as we're now getting in the cadence of these council meetings, that there's we're finding we can actually do more virtually just by meeting and talking. So Mary, give us your overview, and maybe we can open it up to questions people have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Mary Bogie, Deputy Regional Administrator, and Wes Koister is going to join me in this conversation as well to talk a little bit about transit, as that's been our most disrupted area for sure. And then the GMs and directors from the other areas are available for questions as well. So first, I just want you to know that we have wonderfully resourceful and resilient staff here at the council, and our employees, whether they're teleworking or on site, continue to be very productive and efficient, even while our situation continues to be very fluid. On a periodic basis, our divisions are hosting virtual town halls with our staff, and I must say that these have been very, very well attended. The virtual town halls are a mix of our leaders providing updates and then an open venue for a question and answer from staff. Overall, they've been very well received, and while we don't always have the answers to every question, staff have expressed appreciation for our transparency and our response to the pandemic, and that's really important to maintain that connection with our staff when we can't see them on a daily basis. Our incident command team continues to prepare daily situation reports, and we meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday to review as a council-wide team. Today, I'm going to provide some of the key points from those sit reps and the division leaders, as I said, are here to respond to any questions that you might have. So we start our meetings with an overall perspective of the state situation in our update from Minnesota Department of Health. And to date, there's over 120,000 individuals that have been tested for COVID-19, and about 10% are testing positive. Our hospitalizations hover around 500, and the ICU usage stands at 199. This gives a little perspective to our own experience. Since the pandemic began, we have a total of 19 COVID cases, and there are currently 14 active cases. So 5 have returned to work. Of those 19 cases, 1 is in environmental services and 18 cases are in Metro Transit. And all of those are really well distributed between our locations. So our experience tells us we're doing the right things: cleaning, distancing. We continue to deliver our essential services with an emphasis on preventing the spread of COVID in our workplace, reducing the risk of disruption for our essential services, and really supporting our employee well-being. We're also finally starting to see our supply chains opening up for PPE and cleaning supplies. Our procurement staff have been working in collaboration with warehouses and environmental services and Metro Transit to source products and are continually checking with our vendors on delays. A good example of this is a week ago, we ordered infrared thermometers that we plan on using both in our operations today and as we return to the workforce. Checking with that vendor, and that order got delayed out past the end of May. Went to the next vendor, and they're going to be here on Monday. So just that continual follow-up that it's taking on products that we are sourcing to assure that we're keeping a supply on hand and getting the things that we need, again, to assure that we have a safe workplace. Our planning chiefs and human resources are actively working on what we are calling a workplace reset. And that includes how we can safely return to the workplace. I don't, however, expect us to return to the workplace in the near term. This was made abundantly clear for state agencies in the state leadership call yesterday. Those that can telework need to continue to telework, and I see this as a longer term rather than a shorter term solution for us. So just a couple of notes from the sit reps from operations. In community development, our HRA program continues to work with tenants who are experiencing economic hardship. The HRA anticipates receiving just over $1 million through the Federal CARES Act. That's for administrative fees related to the program. And then Lisa Barajas has been tapped to provide leadership and coordination within the council and with our local government partners to address the conditions developing at the encampment located on our council property at Hiawatha and 28th. In environmental services, we've moved past the spring flooding concerns, and our conveyance and treatment operations continue to meet required service levels, probably our least affected in terms of operations continuing to move on. Our transportation operations have clearly had the most pandemic-related disruption, but they're also a great example of resiliency and resourcefulness. So while our core ridership for Metro Mobility and Transit Link are down about 80%, we've shifted to special services, including healthcare worker trips, food shelf, and grocery deliveries. Today, we provided 474 healthcare worker trips and 370 food shelf and grocery store deliveries. We're also gearing up to provide essential worker trips for personal care attendants. And we're working really closely with the SEIU with that service. Our budget impacts for transit are really significant. The updated revenue forecast confirmed what we already knew. Motor vehicle sales taxes are expected to fall significantly, about $90 million over the 2020-2021 biennium. And so we're in the midst of that perfect storm of ridership and fare loss and economic downturn, and our recovery is going to be prolonged. We'll need to adapt our services to using the available data that will continue to change as this pandemic plays out. And that's what Wes is going to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to Wes for a couple of minutes, and then we'll take some questions.
Great. Thank you, Mary. And I'll try to be brief, and I do want to thank Mary for her leadership as the incident commander for the council. It's been it's remarkable work, and it's really, I think, been through this situation an example of how difficult issues can bring the council together as a unit, and Mary's played an integral role in that, and I really appreciate her work. In my past reports, I've spoken a little bit about how we were managing the day-to-day operational challenges of providing transit service in a pandemic environment. I thought today I'd mention a little bit about how we're looking at the future because we are allocating more and more attention to our future. More and more we're being asked when we think transit will return to normal, and I think we believe it will be years, not months, before we truly understand the lasting impact of the pandemic on transit. A lot will depend on the response of our customers and our regional employers and our policymakers. Regardless, we expect there to be significant changes in the transit marketplace as we go forward. Travel behavior is expected to change as workplaces introduce staggered shifts and increasing telemarketing practices to accommodate social distancing, and we think customer service expectations will change as well. Reliability and safety have long been the top priority of our customers. Whenever we do a customer survey, they say reliability and safety are what's most important to us. So that is not likely to change, but the safety expectations will now include the context of the pandemic experience and will include lasting effects of the pandemic in terms of public health interests of both our community and our customers. So we expect safety to be of greater importance to our customers, both in terms of public health associated expectations and also in terms of general security expectations. Just the issue of security is going to be important to our customers. And we've spent, now a month and a half or 2 months messaging don't ride transit except for essential purposes. And as we move away from the pandemic at the right time, we're going to be asking our customers to come back. So we know that I was asked by a reporter today how we will assure our transit riders that transit is safe. And I said the way we're going to assure it is to show it and that they experience that. And that's going to be the big challenge for us. Focusing on these issues isn't a change for us. We've been focusing on improving the customer experience and addressing safety concerns for more than a year. But now, these expectations and standards have increased. So I expect our focus to increase in these areas as we go forward. As we begin to plan for future services, both in the short term and midterm, and as well as in the long term, we're going to constantly have to balance and calibrate service availability with service demand, service design with customer expectations and standards, and we'll have to do this under the overriding influences and parameters of funding and workforce availability. I remind you all, I don't need to, that Metro Transit was facing a $30 million deficit beginning in July 2021 at the end of this biennium. Today, we are already using reserves in the current 2020 budget. So we're already tapping into our reserves because of a structural deficit that is already in place. As a result of the pandemic, MVES revenue losses for the remainder of this biennium are expected to be nearly $90 million. I'm talking about the state biennium. Our best guess for lost fare revenue over the same period is about $100 million. So this $190 million of lost revenue will, between now and July 2021, will be roughly offset by Metro Transit's share of the Regional CARES Act funding. So we still believe the deficit will hit sometime next summer. The budget cliff will be steeper and deeper once we hit it. So our staff have a lot of planning and analysis to do between now and when the 2021 budget needs to be approved by the council in December. We will be sharing more and more information with you about this work and how we're approaching this as we progress through the budget cycle. And our challenge will be to meet the near and midterm needs of our customers as the governor loosens his directives and to position Metro Transit to meet and influence the long-term transit marketplace. We've talked inside Metro Transit how we are committed to approach this as an opportunity to reshape ourselves. We want to be a stronger and a better transit system when we emerge from the pandemic. We mean that. We have to think that way. And this has to be viewed as an opportunity to us. And it's not an opportunity that we've asked for, and we certainly would never ask for, but it's an opportunity not to be wasted nevertheless. And so that's our attitude going into planning. We're keeping track of what other transit properties are doing. We have a tracker across 12 different elements, over 54 transit properties, about how they're responding to the pandemic and how they're looking of moving away from the pandemic and transitioning back to services. We're looking at the literature. We're looking at articles across the nation and the best thinking on this. And we're trying to apply that to our thinking as we go forward, and we'll be sharing that with you as we progress through the budget cycle. The most immediate issue for us is going to be the 2021 budget. This work is going to last much longer than that, because the changes are going to occur over time, and we're going to have to be agile and adjust over time. So that's a little glimpse of how we're thinking about the future, and appreciate the opportunity to communicate that with you.
Thanks, Wes. And Mary, Riva? You're on mute.
I was going to say, you could finish your question or statement, Chair Zell.
No, I was just going to ask if anybody had any comments or questions.
Okay, yeah. So thank you very much, Mary and Wes, for your presentation. That information on COVID is so helpful to know how our organization is going to be positioning and how we've been leading in the effort to fight this pandemic. It's really appreciated. I've heard from other people about the job that you've been doing, and I'm very proud to be associated with this organization. My question is related to the opportunities that we have with this pandemic to be flexible and the opportunities to be creative to resolve our issues. This is not a question, but I do have one coming. I just heard that a restaurant was being creative and putting plastic curtains that were clear between their tables to protect the customers from table to table. So when Wes talks about us becoming a better organization as a result of this, I think the opportunity to be flexible and be creative is an opportunity to be better. So thank you so much for your efforts and your willingness to kind of roll with this as we have to. My first question is regarding, I know that Mary, you said you were planning to order thermometers, but is there a plan to order pulse oximetry equipment at all? I know that with the pulse oximetry equipment, it's a way to measure one of the symptoms that is common with COVID in terms of oxygen level drops. And it's been shown to be an easy, cheap, quick, and an easy way to disinfect the equipment, and it allows early detection of potentially COVID-related symptoms, especially helpful when there are potentially asymptomatic cases that you would not catch with a thermometer. Can you speak to that at all?
Sure, Mr. Chair and Council Member Chambliss. We have not talked about adding that. We just recently started with the thermometer program, and I understand why you're asking that, because that is something that is starting to grow in interest. I will say this, and I don't say it to discourage that concept, but it's taken quite a bit of planning to put together the thermometer program with respect to doing it correctly and having all the protocols in place and creating plexiglass barriers between those taking the temperature and others. But let me take that back and discuss that more with Mary and with others, because these kinds of interests are not just for Metro Transit. ES has the same sorts of issues as well. And I appreciate you raising it. And to be frank, we haven't talked about it yet at this point, but we will.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll also add to that. Our planning chiefs are really responsible for those kinds of activities and planning, and nothing's off the table with them. So they've really been working through kind of a questionnaire that employees need to go through before they come to work, and then protocols for when they enter work, how they enter the building, how they exit the building, how we seat people in the building, and so. They're doing an awful lot of work about how we continue to social distance even as we come back to the office, and who comes back and who stays out, and do we do shifts. And so none of those things are off the table. And as we learn more, we'll build that into our planning as well.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I have spoken with the regional administrator, Meredith, about it as well.
Great.
Mr. Chair, it's Judy.
Judy, go ahead.
Thank you. And not for an answer now, but I know it was not that long ago as we were looking at how to kind of incorporate our, medical health benefits into the workplace, especially for transit drivers. I think that was part of the concept of maybe placing kind of a minute clinic or virtual type offering, not virtual, but a minute clinic type offering. I think that's what I remember. But it was a while back, pre-COVID. But anything that we can do, also to, get that care in the workplace, if possible, so that if somebody's feeling like they're not doing well at work, they hopefully don't know that they can get help and don't have to finish their shift. That feeling, that employees that stress out and don't want to say anything. But I know we were trying to help people with their well-being, and I think that now there's emphasis around that, certainly.
So Experience Health Partners Clinic at Robert Street, and they opened up one at Hayward. Is Hayward still open, or is it?
So, Mr. Chair and council members, our clinics right now we have at Haywood as well as at Robert Street. They are taking virtual appointments right now.
Okay.
I will also say that our leave policy has been pretty open during peacetime emergency. And so if somebody is saying they are not feeling well, we immediately have them out of the office. We look at contacts, we look at cleaning and disinfecting. And so, as our experience has shown, we're doing a pretty good job of trying to keep those that are in the workplace safe within that workplace.
When you compare us to other transit agencies, Wes has described these scans we have almost daily, but our numbers, 18 positives, quite a few of those are back to work. That is, you want to knock on wood. We're for the 4,000 employees, we're doing pretty well, and for environmental services to have at this point no positives it really is. That we're doing something right so far, but it's always something to keep mindful of.
Yes, Mr. Chair and council members, we are not right now screening all of our operators for temperature. We are piloting in some areas and looking to roll it out into broader areas, including environmental services, and then as a tool when we move back into the office space as well.
Chair, I'm not sure if you can see my hand up. This is Councilmember Atlas.
I see it now. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate your last comment. And in my day job, we've been in philanthropy, of course, we're looking a lot at the disparities that are happening, and we're a part of a funders conversation this week that led to provide some opportunity for research around those that are impacted nationally, and transit workers are just, so to your point, just really being impacted, and the majority of those being women and people of color in those frontline jobs. So I'm just curious to your out of a lot of other transit operators nationally. I'm also thinking about how do we remain lucky, and how do we acknowledge and support and learn from this opportunity to ensure we don't see those, or if we are seeing disproportionate impacts on those groups, that we're able to mitigate and support and improve our systems going forward.
Yeah, Wes, do you want to comment on that? I know Brian and Vince have been on part of APTA groups, and are we learning as we go to improve our practice, and particularly those that are actually most exposed, as Councilmember pointed out?
I missed the first part of Councilmember Engelbrettson's question, but I'll let me mention this, that again we track the tactics and strategies of over 54 transit agencies and how they're doing, and as well as how it compare what we're doing to that, and trying to learn from others, and as they're trying to learn from us. I want to also mention that I'm in the process of, I will say we've been fortunate. I want to think that we've had some influence on that. I also know that anything can happen in the context of a pandemic, and we can start having a bad experience. Any positive case is a bad experience, but ours so far have been spread out. We have had no cases that I'm aware of hospitalized. I ask about their health every day, and so far the contact with other individuals, both inside the organization and the public, has been very minimal, to the point where we haven't had to address that to a great extent because of the practices we have in place. That said, we're not public health experts, and public health experts aren't transit experts. So we're trying to bridge that, and have invited and just received responses from local public health commissioners and from the Minnesota Department of Health, who has a task force on social distancing. And we've invited them to work with us to talk to us about how we can do a better job and meet with us. So we're in the process of getting that conversation going. We want to learn from the experts, and we want to make sure that we're doing whatever we can and whatever we possibly can within both our resources and within our authority to do our part in preventing the spread, and that applies to everyone. So we're still learning, I guess, and I want to assure you that we know we're still learning, and we're still seeking new resources to accelerate that learning.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lindstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to let the council know, give you all a brief update on a report that we heard at Environment Committee yesterday. And that is that wastewater can provide valuable public health information about a community, including COVID. Leftover RNA from the virus is included in the wastewater. And we are partnering, Environmental Services is partnering with a company called BioBot. They're a bunch of MIT folks, a spinoff company from MIT that is collecting wastewater from 150 or so wastewater treatment plants across the nation. And the idea here is that if you analyze the wastewater and you can tell how much virus is in that wastewater, and as we all know, people can be asymptomatic, right, for quite a while, for 5 days, 6 days, 10 days, whatever it might be. So if you can tell how much virus is in the wastewater, you may be able to see spikes in a community before people get really sick and end up in the hospital. So that's a pretty neat partnership that we are doing right now. They call it Sewage Surveillance, and it's wastewater epidemiology, really is what it's all about. There's a cost to this, so It's not cheap. It's a little over $1,000 a sample, and we're currently sending in a sample a week. So we are really looking at whether this information can provide timely and actionable information, public health information for our community.
Thank you for sharing that. That is a continuing trend starting in Boston, but I know that the university and others are engaged here, and I know the Federal Reserve seems to have a great interest in this as well. So stay tuned. I like that we're sewage surveyors. That sounds better than urban overlords. I think that's probably a good thing.
It's catchy, isn't it, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'm gonna start ready. I wrote that down. Any other questions, comments? Well, we're living in interesting times. Does anybody have any other? Thank you, Mary, very much, and Wes. Really appreciate your work and sharing your information. I know all these are changing week by week and day by day. The governor will be speaking in a few minutes to talk about what he is going to be doing in the state in the next few weeks and months. So encourage people to tune into that. But any other comments on any other subject that anybody would like to share?
Chair, this is Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson.
Please.
I have two very quick things. One related.
We're losing your audio.
Just want to share.
Oh, there it is. It's
Can
back.
you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Okay. So related to MPOSC and the CDC, just a quick update. At our last MPOSC meeting last week, the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission, we had a great conversation about bridging facilities. And I just want to share with the council members, this is a vital step in completing the spirit and intent and our stewardship of the Minnesota State Legacy Funds for Parks and Trails to really innovate in facilities and activities that are going to be exciting ways that we connect under resourced and populations who've been underconnected to our regional parks and trails, facilities. So we started a great conversation, or particularly have been curious about how the state legacy funds are going to turn out amazing, innovative projects. This is a big part of that, and we're a part of that work at MPOSC and then via the CDC Council and the council as a whole, of course. And then secondly, I just want to give a shout out to something I'm really excited about that we heard and are voted for at our last CDC meeting. And that's, I can't believe I just said really excited about what I'm about to read to you, but our joint powers agreement in partnership with the Minnesota DNR and Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails related to using Streetlight to get more and better information about who and how people are accessing our regional parks and trails. I just want to say that I'm super excited for this partnership. It's going to be a game changer for equity in our region, but in particular, Minnesota residents in a really meaningful way that's going to truly change and catapult their knowledge and understanding of the burgeoning Greater Minnesota Parks and group and their regional parks work. And I just think it's really exciting that we're able to be a great ally and partner to them in this. And I think it's important for us as we talk about how we are valuable to Greater Minnesota in many ways, and that's just one. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, and I completely agree that streetlight data and what we'll learn is really going to advance the things that we're interested in, particularly marginalized population. Any other sharing thoughts?
Yeah, Chair Zelli, this is Councilmember Sterner.
Oh, hi, Phil.
I just was going to bring up, I haven't missed any Wednesday Metropolitan Council meetings since we went into our audios, but it shows me as not being present. I one meeting I was 25 minutes late because it showed on my calendar not being
Oh.
there. I'm just wondering if the minutes could show I was present, even like this one, I even approved the minutes, but I'm not showing on there as being at the meeting, and I haven't missed any yet. So that's what I was going to bring up.
All right. Well, I'll ask Liz and others to take a look at that. Thanks.
We appreciate it. Yeah, maybe Greg can verify that, too, as well, if they need to see if I was physically online too, and that. So thank you.
We're going to send our archaeologists. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
We'll solve that.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments? Thoughts? If not, I don't know. Mary, do you want to add anything that you haven't otherwise mentioned?
Mr. Chair, I think I've talked enough.
Never enough. How about our general counsel, Ann?
Mr. Chair, no report from me.
No, and I have no report. I think other than what we've discussed, a lot happening even during this period of time. And I think one of the things we're finding is we can actually improve attendance because we don't have to fight traffic, and we can all just tune in. So great to see you all. I think that we probably don't need a vote, but unless there's an objection, I will call us to adjourn, and look forward to seeing you all soon. You have a few minutes to go to the refrigerator and sit back and listen to